Our boss is Silas Thorne. You should know your place. The threat echoed through the Austin bar. To the drunken executives, the musician Luna Hale was just entertainment. The crowd fell silent. But in the shadows, Kaylin Voss, the 24-year-old grad student, had seen enough. 4 seconds, 2 precise moves, and 2 men were on the floor. She wasn't a hero. She was an undercover operative who had just placed her entire national security mission in jeopardy. The late October air in Austin, Texas, was thick and heavy, a humid holdover from a day that couldn't quite surrender to autumn. In a sleek minimalist coffee shop downtown, Kaylin Voss stared intently at her laptop screen, a half-finished essay on ethics in artificial intelligence glowing back at her. To anyone watching, she was Kay, a 24-year-old graduate student, blending in seamlessly with her horn-rimmed glasses, a worn university sweatshirt, and a focused academic frown. The cover was flawless. In reality, the laptop screen was a one-way mirror. Reflected in its polished surface, she watched her target. Silas Thorne sat 3 tables away. At 45, he was the charismatic CEO of Thorne Dynamics, a titan of the robotics industry. Dressed in a sharp, custom-tailored navy blazer, his silver-streaked hair and easy smile projected an image of confident success. But Kaylin saw the details her training had taught her to find, the subtle tension in his jaw, the way his eyes constantly scanned the exits, the almost imperceptible tightening of his hand around his briefcase. Thorne was a predator, disguised as a philanthropist, and Kaylin's mission, codenamed Operation Puppet Master, was to prove he was selling the nation's most advanced bipedal robotics technology to a hostile foreign power. A low, toneless voice sounded in her micro earpiece. Target is agitated. Report. It was Marcus, her handler, a man she knew only as a disembodied voice and a string of encrypted texts. He was a ghost in the machine, devoid of emotion, ruthlessly efficient. Nothing out of the ordinary, Kaylin murmured, her lips barely moving as she pretended to sip her coffee. He's just reviewed the quarterly reports. Still on schedule. I'll maintain cover at a public venue tonight, per protocol. Acknowledged, Marcus replied. The line went silent for a moment before he added, Make no noise, Kay. That robotics tech could shift the balance of military power. There is no margin for error. That evening, the public venue was the Howling Coyote, a loud, sprawling bar on 6th Street, drenched in neon and the smell of stale beer. Kaylin despised the manufactured chaos, but her cover demanded a social life. She claimed a small, shadowed table, nursing a beer she had no intention of finishing, and let the noise wash over her. Then the chaos stilled. On a small, scuffed stage, a young woman named Luna Hale was tuning an old, battered acoustic guitar. She looked barely 21, with large, soulful brown eyes that held a hint of nervousness and a cascade of dark, wavy hair. When she began to sing, her voice was raw and beautifully fragile, telling a story of heartbreak and hope. It was a moment of pure, unvarnished truth in a city of noise and ambition. Everything Kaylin's double life was not. The moment was shattered by a burst of boorish laughter. At a VIP table near the stage sat Dex and Jagger, 2 senior executives from Thorne Dynamics whom Kaylin recognized, instantly from surveillance files. Dex was broad and balding, his expensive silk shirt stained with something dark. Jagger was leaner, with a cruel smirk permanently etched on his face. Both were drunk and loud. Nice voice, sweetheart, Dex bellowed as Luna finished her song, his words slurring. But the packaging could use some work. Luna's face flushed, but she ignored them, her fingers finding the strings for her next song. Jagger, however, pushed his chair back and swaggered towards the stage, his movements unsteady. Hey now, he said, leaning heavily on the stage, invading her space. Our boss, Mr. Thorne, he's a big supporter of local talent. His tone was thick with insinuation. Maybe you should play something just for us. A little thank you, perhaps? He placed his hand on the edge of the stage, inches from her bare foot. Luna flinched, her playing faltering. Kaylin felt a knot tighten in her stomach. Marcus was right. No margin for error. But he'd never issued a protocol for what to do when a moral error was unfolding right in front of her. Let me see that guitar, Dex snarled, his words thick with alcohol as he lurched forward. The cruel smirk on his face widened. Looks cheap. Maybe you need a sponsor." He reached out, his thick fingers aiming not for the instrument, but to grab it from her grasp. Luna recoiled, clutching the worn wood of her guitar like a shield. "Please don't," she pleaded, her voice barely a whisper. The crowd murmured, a ripple of discomfort spreading through the bar. A burly man, with a weathered face, probably a regular, took a half step forward before catching Jagger's threatening glare and sinking back into the shadows. The collective apathy of the room was a tangible force, colder and more menacing than the two aggressors. For Kaylin, it was a chilling reminder of why her world of shadows existed. In Kaylin's mind, scenarios unfolded with the speed of a supercomputer. Scenario A: non-intervention. Cover is secure. Mission proceeds. Luna is traumatized. Scenario B: intervention. Cover has a 90% probability of compromise. Mission fails. Luna is safe. The cold, pragmatic voice of Marcus screamed in her head, a phantom echo across secure channels. "The girl is not the target. Stand down." But the image of Luna's terrified eyes overrode every protocol. Kaylin took a single, steadying breath and chose Scenario C. She rose from her stool, a ghost detaching from the darkness. Her first move was a distraction. She let her phone slip from her hand, the device clattering onto the floor near a group of loud college students. "Oh, shoot," she muttered, bending down. The small, localized commotion was enough. A few heads turned. That was all she needed. Her second move was approach. In the 2 seconds of diverted attention, she moved with fluid silence, weaving through the tight press of bodies until she was directly behind Dex. He never saw her coming. Her third move was neutralization. With the edge of her hand, hardened from years of training, she delivered a sharp, precise strike to the ulnar nerve in his outstretched arm. It was a textbook move, designed to cause immediate debilitating pain and numbness without lasting damage. Dex yelled, a sharp cry of shock, as his arm went limp and useless at his side. He stumbled back, clutching the deadened limb. Jagger spun around, his drunken eyes wide with confusion and rage. But Kaylin was already gone, having melted back 2 paces into the crowd. From her new position, she hooked her foot around the leg of a nearby bar stool and sent it skittering across the floor. The stool slammed squarely into the side of Jagger's knees. His legs buckled, and he went down with a crash, taking a small table of empty glasses with him. The entire sequence, from the dropped phone to Jagger hitting the floor, took less than 5 seconds. Before the last shard of glass had settled, Kaylin was already moving towards the emergency exit at the back of the bar. She didn't run. She walked, her pace measured, her posture unremarkable. She was just another patron startled by the sudden violence. As she slipped out into the humid night air of the alley, the first shrill blast of the bar's security alarm cut through the night. She had made noise, a deafening amount of it. And as she disappeared into the labyrinth of Austin's back streets, she knew her handler, Marcus, would already be aware of the sound. "What did you do?" The voice of Marcus crackled through the encrypted comms device, sharp and furious. On Kaylin's laptop screen, his face was a mask of cold rage. He was a man in his late 50s, with a stern, clean-shaven jaw and eyes that seemed to see right through the camera and into her soul. He had the severe, no-nonsense look of a career intelligence officer who had long ago sacrificed every part of his life for the mission. He threw a grainy, time-stamped image from the bar's security camera onto the shared screen. It was a blur of motion, a dark-clad figure, unidentifiable, but undeniably her. Thorne has frozen all external communications. He's pulled back his entire security detail to an internal-only rotation. He thinks the incident was a warning from a competitor. Marcus seethed. "You've taken 6 months of meticulous groundwork and set it on fire." "I neutralized a direct threat to a civilian and maintained cover integrity at the scene," Kaylin replied, her voice level and devoid of emotion, a perfect recitation of field protocol. "Your cover?" Marcus laughed, a harsh, grating sound. "Your cover is now the #1 trending topic in the city of Austin." He cut the connection abruptly. A new text message appeared instantly. "Confined to safe house. Radio silence until further notice. I am reviewing your position on this operation." The message was a slammed door. Kaylin was grounded, trapped. She walked to the window of her sterile, anonymous apartment. Below, Austin pulsed with life, a vibrant city she was a part of but could never truly belong to. It was now a prison. Marcus's anger, she soon discovered, was not an exaggeration. Confined and cut off, Kaylin turned to the only tool she had left: passive open-source intelligence. She began to scrape local social media, news blogs, and forums. It didn't take long to find it. The hashtag #AustinAngel was everywhere. A local music blogger, a young, earnest-looking man named Finn with a popular site called a TX Unplugged, had been the catalyst. He'd been in the bar and had interviewed Luna Hale the next day. His post was a heartfelt, dramatic retelling of the event, painting a picture of a mysterious guardian angel who appeared from the shadows, defended the innocent, and vanished without a trace. The story was a modern urban fairy tale, and the city had fallen in love with it. Then she saw the sketch. An art student who had also been present had drawn their interpretation of the hero. It wasn't a portrait, but a silhouette filled with dynamic, comic book-style shading. The face was obscured, but the artist had captured her posture perfectly. The coiled readiness, the straightness of her spine. They had even managed to get the general shape of her jawline right. It was a ghost outline, but it was her ghost. Kaylin stared at the image, a strange and terrifying cocktail of emotions churning inside her. There was a flicker of pride she had done. The right thing, protected someone who couldn't protect herself. But that flicker was instantly extinguished by a tidal wave of cold dread. Her single righteous act had given birth to a new identity, a public legend. And that legend was now actively hunting her real, painstakingly crafted cover. She knew, with the chilling certainty of a trained operative, that it was only a matter of time before someone, somewhere, connected the heroic shadow in the drawing to the quiet graduate student in apartment 4B. The clock was ticking. The clock. Confined to her apartment, Kaylin turned passivity into a weapon. Cut off from active surveillance, she did the only thing she could. She profiled her target. She spent the next 48 hours compiling a deep psychological analysis of Silas Thorne, using every scrap of data she had gathered over the past 6 months. The profile revealed a man who was arrogant and meticulous, but also deeply paranoid. The incident at the bar, she reasoned, would trigger his paranoia. It was an unscheduled, chaotic event, and Thorne hated chaos. He would feel exposed, vulnerable. His reaction would be to accelerate his timeline and move the deal to a channel he believed was completely off-grid, a ghost network from his past. She called Marcus. "I know what he's going to do," she stated, her voice calm and certain. She laid out her hypothesis. Thorne would use an old, defunct logistics warehouse owned by a shell corporation he'd dissolved years ago. It was the perfect blind spot. "That's a guess, Kay." Marcus's voice was skeptical. "It's an educated conclusion based on behavioral analysis," she countered. "His paranoia is now his weakness. Give me one shot. It's the only way back in." The silence on the line stretched for a full minute. Kaylin could almost hear the gears turning in his head, weighing the risk against the potential reward. Finally, he spoke. "One shot. You go dark. No support. If you're wrong, this is over." That night, cloaked in the industrial shadows on the outskirts of Austin, Kaylin proved her analysis was correct. The dusty, abandoned warehouse was not abandoned at all. She watched from a concealed position as Thorne himself arrived, not with the foreign buyers, but with a single courier. The exchange was a small, chemically sealed hard drive. Using the chaos she created by triggering a localized EMP that killed the lights and security feeds, Kaylin moved like a phantom, intercepting the courier in the darkness and swapping the real drive for a perfect replica she had prepared. She was gone before the backup generators even kicked in, the drive containing irrefutable proof in her possession. Her gamble hadn't just saved the mission, it had completed it. The fallout was swift and absolute. Faced with the data from the hard drive, Silas Thorne was arrested in a quiet, pre-dawn raid. Tried in federal court, he was found guilty of violating the Economic Espionage Act and conspiracy to commit treason. His sentence, 18 years in a federal supermax prison, a $5 million fine, and the complete seizure of all Thorn Dynamics assets by the U.S. government. Dex and Jagger, implicated as knowing accomplices in the corporate espionage, received lesser sentences of 3 years in federal prison. For their actions at the Howling Coyote, they pleaded no contest to misdemeanor assault, receiving 2 years of probation, 200 hours of community service, and mandatory attendance in an anger management program. 3 months. Later, Kaylin sat in a quiet cafe in Geneva, preparing for her next assignment. She opened her laptop, not to review mission parameters, but to watch a live stream. The feed was from the Austin City Limits Music Festival. On the main stage, under the bright lights, stood Luna Hale. In her hands was a brand new Martin acoustic guitar, a gift that had arrived at her doorstep from an anonymous benefactor a month prior. As Luna played, her voice soared over the massive crowd, no longer fragile, but powerful and confident. A small, genuine smile touched Kaylin's lips. She had completed her mission, both of them. And in that moment, the tune of Quiet Justice sounded remarkably sweet. The story of Kaylin Voss reminds us that sometimes the greatest strength is found in the risks we take for others. It teaches us that our humanity is not a liability, but our most profound asset. You see, a miracle is not always a grand supernatural event. More often, a miracle is simply a person, placed by God in the right place at the right time, who makes the brave choice to act. Kaylin may have been a trained soldier, but her true power that night came from a compassionate heart. She became an answer to a prayer Luna Hale didn't even know she had made. In our own daily lives, we are constantly given opportunities to be a small miracle for someone else. You may not face down villains in a bar, but you will see someone who is lonely, who is being treated unfairly, or who simply needs a helping hand. In those moments, you have a choice. You can be a bystander, or you can be the reason someone's faith in humanity is restored. You have the power to be the angel in someone else's story. If this message resonated with you, please share this story with someone who might need to hear it. What did you think of Kaylin's choice? Let us know your thoughts in the comments below as we read every single one. And for more stories of courage and hope, be sure to subscribe to the channel. May God bless you and your loved ones, and may He always place an angel nearby when you are in need.